Welcome back to Iron Sharpens Iron, friends. We are taking a break from some of the topics we've gone through over the past few weeks, and gonna go back to a leadership topic, which I think is illustrated by a couple of quotes from John C. Maxwell,
Hmm.
so the legend himself. He says, "Leadership is seeing the possibilities in a situation, while others are seeing the limitations." He also says, "Leaders must be close enough to relate to others, but far enough ahead to motivate them." So let's talk about it. So welcome back to Iron Sharpens Iron, friends. Talking about leadership today, and with a couple of quotes, kind of to set the stage here by John C. Maxwell about the importance of leadership and specifically with vision. And so you and I were talking about this a little bit earlier this week, and I have a couple analogies I want to use for kind of where my head is going with this. So as I have grown in my career, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well as you've grown in your career, there's this metaphorical ladder that everybody references related to corporate America. And each rung on the ladder is supposed to represent climbing vertically up in your career, advancing
Right.
in your career from one position to the next and to the next and to the next. And a lot of people, when they look at career growth, do look at it as a straight vertical. You go from an individual contributor on the front line, whatever that may be, cooking French fries at McDonald's, mowing grass, analytics, whatever it is. You start on this individual contributor frontline level, and then you move up to the next rung, which is to be a manager of people. And you have a team of people under you doing the frontline work. And then you continue to move up to being a leader of other leaders. And what I was thinking through this week is how often, as someone climbs to the next rung, now if you're thinking literally, you have a ladder in your yard, think of an A-frame ladder. So it's stable, it's just sitting out in the yard. As you climb to the next step, what happens to your vision? You can see further. You can
Yep.
see more than you could when you're on that bottom rung. And if you were to climb to the very top, now I don't recommend this because it's not safe to stand on the top of an A-frame ladder with nothing to hold on to.
We'll just say you're looking at a glass wall.
Yeah.
It's up against the glass wall.
We can also use the analogy of like you're saying, a glass wall or a glass elevator on the outside of a building. And as that elevator is going up to the next floor and you're looking out this glass elevator at what's around you, you can see further.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens so often, I find, is that as people move higher, they sometimes are still stuck looking straight down at what is below them. And we call it being caught up in the weeds or what have you, but they don't take the time to look up and to see everything that's going on around, because as you're moving up, your span of control, your territory, if you want to think of it that way, is growing.
Mm-hmm.
And so your responsibility goes from, let's use the analogy of the ladder being in the yard still. Like if you're the individual contributor, you might be the one raking the leaves. And then as you move to the manager of people, you move up a rung. Suddenly it's not just that 1 yard where you are raking leaves, but now you're responsible for a bunch of houses and you can see further. And as you continue to climb up, suddenly it's a neighborhood and then multiple neighborhoods. And there's the people cutting the grass and there's the leader of the crews and there's all the things. But if you are standing at the top or even halfway up, wherever your position may be, and if you are still just stuck looking at the leaves on the ground, you're missing some things.
Missing a lot of things. I think that happens for two big reasons too, at least in my experience. The first reason, and if I could be vulnerable, this is my main reason, is that I think the higher you climb the ladder, the more fear you have. But it's not a fear of heights. it's a fear of imposter syndrome. It's a fear that you don't deserve the height that you've climbed to. You've got lucky somehow, or you lucked out. At least most of the people that deserve to be on that level have this imposter syndrome. If you don't, and you think that you're the best thing since sliced bread, you probably are about to fall because you probably don't deserve it. That said, I say imposter syndrome because I see a lot of folks, and I have done this many times, they climb that ladder and they're still doing the job below them or the job below that, stuck in the weeds, because they feel, I still have to prove my worth. I still have to prove that I'm the best. I still have to prove why I'm here. I can do it. I can be the most knowledgeable person, the hardest worker, the one that actually executes more. Because if I don't, then what am I? And I think getting from a point where you understand that your self-worth, when you're an individual contributor, is tied to your execution and your skill, and divorce yourself with that and realize that when you're a leader of people, or a leader of leaders especially, your self-worth isn't necessarily execution, but it's creating an environment, developing the people, and having that long-term vision so you can delegate the things that need to be done to the executors. That's where your worth comes. And understanding that transition is a difficult one, especially if you don't have any type of leadership development or a mentor that has been there and said, hey, look, I know you want to do the thing because this is how you got here, but your job is no longer to do the thing. Your job is to develop other people to do the thing better than you could, and to set the vision to take this place to places that you never could alone. And that is like a big gap. That's the first one, imposter syndrome. I think the other one, which is just as insidious, I found, but it's not personally one that I deal with because it's just not my temperament, is if I don't do it, who's going to do it? If I want something done right, I need to do it myself. I'm the best, and I don't trust that these people under me or under them are going to do it right. So let me do it for them. Let me grab the face mask and say, do this and run this way. And I think that comes from a lack of trust, and the same lack of, your job is no longer to execute. Your job is to have the long-term vision, the long-term strategy, and create the environment of development where people can execute. And I think both of them coalesce in this weird yin and yang of, I'm in the weeds. I'm looking down. I'm not focused on the long-term vision, where we're going, what I can see at my level. And, it's a problem.
That's good. Yeah. And those are some definite traps. Simon Sinek, one of his more famous quotes on leadership, and he's got a lot of really good ones.
Freaking love this guy.
Says, leadership is not about being in charge. Leadership is about looking after those in our charge.
Yeah.
To your point just now, the fear of it's not going to be done as well as I could do it is real.
Yeah.
What do most companies do if they have a vacancy at a manager? And I'm going to use the term manager deliberately here, even though that we're talking about leadership in general. But the frontline manager, the most common place, and I'm not saying it's wrong, but the most common thing that a company will do is they're going to look to fill that with the highest performing, using whatever KPIs they're looking at, person on the team. And so you think sales, the highest producing sales agent is going to be asked first to become the new sales manager.
Almost 10 times out of 10.
Yeah. Every time. If they say yes, that's who it's going to be. And why? Because there's this perception, well, they are great individually, therefore they can make everybody else be as great as them.
Exactly. Ask Jordan how that worked out for him when he was a coach. Michael Jordan. Yeah. Ask Jordan how that worked out for
Michael Jordan when he went to, was it the Grizzlies? Was it the Grizzlies?
I don't even know. That's how not Michael Jordan #1 of a coach he was, comparative to how incredible Michael Jordan was as an actual player and executor. It doesn't always translate. And I don't want to say rarely it does, but I might say rarely it does. Because it's just two different skill sets. It really is.
It's two different skills. And you were saying before, if there's not the leadership development part,
right,
then generally it's very difficult to translate. Right. But I want to hit on the other one you were saying as well, of the imposter syndrome and getting just stuck. Because it's so true. As you start to climb, even if you're not, like, you may have the ego to say, well, yeah, absolutely, but I'm just going to go rock it. And ego can get in the way. Absolutely. But I think also there's this fear of, when I was on the front line, I knew exactly what I had to do every day.
Yep.
You have kind of a checklist, and you're going through the things. Once you move into management, the role is suddenly shifted, but your view, using the view of the ladder, you're still stuck looking at the grass and who's raking the grass, instead of looking at the team and just making sure everybody has what they need to be successful. You suddenly shift from a doing the task to supervising and making sure everybody knows what their tasks are. And then as you get to the leader of leaders, I think this is honestly the most difficult transition in the corporate ladder. It has been in my experience personally, and I've seen a lot of other people struggle with this, is when you go from leading a team of frontline individual contributors to then leading a group of managers, this gets even more difficult.
Bigger gap. That's a chasm right there.
It is. I mean, you're Evel Knievel trying to jump over the Grand Canyon sometimes with this one, because suddenly it's not even about the tasks as much anymore. You're just checking in and verifying with the managers, okay, is everything running smoothly? Or you're looking at reporting to just verify, are things going? But your view has to suddenly get so broad.
It's like, if you're a tank operator and you're shooting the tank, you get so good at tank operating that when you go to the leader of the tank, at least you're still in the tank. And you're still saying, hey, shoot here and do this. And maybe you get confused because you still want to pull the button and shoot the tank. But at least you're still in the tank. And you got to grow into the leader of every different thing, every person in the tank, so you could be a leader of people. But when you get promoted to the admiral or the mission control or the person that's not even in the tank, you're back at command, looking at the battlefield, and you're like, whoa, I'm in charge of this tank regiment, but there's air superiority over here, and there's artillery over there, and there's landmines, and there's some, like, this is crazy. And that's why it's such a chasm, because when you get to that level where you could truly get above the trees and see everything, and you're thinking like, whoa, we're headed in the wrong direction, or we're totally wasting our time down there. But if you're too busy still being in the tank, you can't see the forest through the trees, I think that it says.
Okay.
Even more so, back to your point, when you get promoted, you're still the same person. Like, I remember when I was I had my son, and my dad told me, he's like, once you put that child in your arms, you're going to be a different person. You're going to look at his eyes, and you're just going to grow, and your heart's going to grow. They said the same thing. Once you accept Jesus in your heart, you're going to be born again and a new person. I heard it again. Once you get married, you're just a different person. I got married. I felt like the same dude the next day. I got saved. I still had the same negative proclivities the hour after I got out of church. I had a son. I looked at this baby and I was terrified I wasn't going to drop him, but I didn't feel like this new father and different person, this new husband and different person, this child of God who has no more sin. I was the same dude. And I had to learn, because of this different environment, how to be a different husband and a better man because of it. How to be a child of God and a son first. How to be a father and someone who sacrifices. But you grow into that. You don't just snap into it like that. And I think that really takes a lot of people off. Like, it takes them, it really hits them. It's scary. I'm in a different environment. I'm supposed to be different. I'm a manager now. I'm a director now. I'm a VP now. I own a company now, but I'm still the same dude who fired the tank. And I don't really know how to do this. And again, if you don't have that mentor, if you don't have that person that you can rely on, if you don't have that wise counsel, you'll either do it your way, or you'll, even worse, jump on social media, Reddit, the internet, and try to figure out how other people do it. And you can get so much bad advice and opinions out there that it's going crazy. So any tips on how to, like, become that better person, because now I find, like, you look at these old folks that are married like 60, 70 years, and like you ask the wife something and the husband answers for the wife because that's exactly what she'd say, or you ask the husband something and the wife already has exactly what the husband's supposed to give you, and you're like, you guys are one. You're one soul. And that's what it says in the Bible, and I agree that that is the case. But you don't just like, whoop, right when you get married. You grow into that. 60 years of hanging out with one person, loving one person, caring for one person, sacrificing for one person, breathing their morning breath and looking at all their wrinkles and their beauty and everything in between, that would make you a beautiful husband or wife. But I don't know. I haven't found any shortcuts thus far to be that. I haven't found any shortcuts for a leader to grow into a leader, as opposed to a lot of self-discovery, a lot of leading thyself, and really getting a mentor and a thought partner and someone who cares about you and has been there to kind of guide the way. You found anything extra?
Mentor part is huge. Absolutely. But I would say, I mean, some of this is industry specific, but a lot of what I found specifically for like leader of leaders, which is we were saying is the most challenging. Like if you're the leader of a frontline team, you are still close enough to the day to day
Yeah.
that a lot of it is just making sure that's going right.
You're still
And
in the tank.
there's so much coaching. Yeah. Showing them a better way to fire, to aim, like how to reload faster. Like you're so close to process and established process. Like hopefully, right? Hopefully everybody has SOPs for what good looks like to make sure things are going right. And your job is to make sure that everybody's executing on that. Now you've used the military example, like the friend Garth Massey, it's colonel in the military. He's with the Marines, just phenomenal guy. He has his company all about leadership development. He explained this. He used a little workshop exercise that I absolutely loved. I know Myers was there with me when we did this, and it was so fun. And so what he did is he had these felt mats and he had kind of like a map on it. And so we did it a couple different exercises with this, but it was all about communication and trying to teach this group of leaders at the company I was with at the time how to think differently about leadership and what your responsibilities are. And it was really focused heavily on communication, but I think it answers the question that you're asking here. So he had different people and just randomly assigned the people in the room. Okay, you're the general and you're I'm going to get the order of rank.
Colonel, lieutenant.
Yeah, the
it.
colonel,
Yeah.
the lieutenant, the sergeant, all the way down to the private. And he established some guidelines. All right, so your force is coming in. There's a general population in the city. And, you can't fire first and all these different rules, right? And establish what is the goal of the mission. And in the military, there's a very defined, or at least there better be, a very defined goal of
Right.
what the squad or the army, whatever they're going to go do. And so he'd set these broad terms, like here's the guardrails, and what everybody would leave, and he had the general with whoever was second in command, the lieutenant, let's say, and said, okay, give your orders. And
That's so cool.
he'd ask the lieutenant, okay, do you have any questions? Here's your chance to ask clarifying questions. And they'd ask some questions. And he'd say, okay, general, out of the room. And brought in the next person, whether it was the colonel. And again, I don't remember the order of rank here, but, and all the way down to the private, the frontline person. And it was fascinating because as a group of, at the time, we're like directors and regional managers and things in this room, the people that were playing general and colonel and like at the very top were giving way too much detail. They're like, okay, you go in, send the troops like through this street and go check these houses and, make sure you're using this rifle. And by the time it got to the private, it was so overly complicated that he's like, I don't even know what I'm doing.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's like, I have no idea. But it was amazing because as you're going up the ladder, and this is what I try to coach people on as they're becoming leaders of leaders, the further up the ladder you go, and I'm not a CEO, but you need more time spent planning and strategizing and looking forward. Like our quote at the start, John Maxwell, leadership is seeing the possibilities while others are seeing the limitations. Even if you take the limitations part of that quote out, Your job as a leader is to look forward, see what's possible, and set expectations on how to go execute. Now, you don't need to be telling the person raking the leaves how to go rake the leaves, but if I'm near the top of this ladder and I'm looking out over these multiple neighborhoods, say they're all my clients, okay, well, my job is to make sure, okay, well, that we're thinking ahead on billing and that we've got, that whoever's in charge of, maintenance of the equipment, that there's a plan and established process for that. And looking, okay, well, how do we grow our territory? Are there competitors coming in? Like, you got to be thinking, what are the risks to the business? How do we continue to be successful, establish more market share? And more of your week needs to be focused on that. But as you were saying earlier, and people get so worried about, well, how am I contributing? And when you take time aside and you get out of your email and you get out of meetings long enough to actually plan and strategize, you can feel a little funny about it.
Yeah.
Like, am I bringing value? What's going on here? But no,
You are.
looking forward and establishing a vision of what we are going to go achieve is what's absolutely necessary.
The people in the tank need you to know that there's landmines across the hill that they can't see.
Yeah.
The people in the tank need you to know that we have an R&D department, that we're doing so much research and development that in the event that you hit a landmine that no one can see, it's not going to blow through the bottom of the tank because we have plates that would stop it. And that's the leader's job. It's to install that updated equipment on that tank, solving a problem that is plagued the people in the tank. It's to make sure that they avoid the danger and the failure. It's to be there to make sure that they have the evac in the event something happens and they can get home and they can get patched up and developed and coached and back out there so they can fail again safely, hopefully, right? I think that it's funny that we know this in the military. And I think that we know this in the military because we have such consequences of failure.
Oh, yeah. If it goes wrong, it's bad.
If it goes wrong, it goes bad. Like, people die, nations fall, freedoms are lost. So the consequences are huge. But in business, we also have consequences, right? We have, layoffs and businesses folding and all that, but it's not like death. It's not life and death a lot of the times. But I find it funny that the folks that are the strategists don't, and I don't know, because I have no idea, but I would consider myself special forces. I would consider myself at least like a high-level intelligence agent. And I would think that the folks at the top of these huge military industrial complexes, I would hope, are spending a lot of time, to your point, strategizing, but a lot of the strategy has to come from direct, reliable intelligence. We have boots on the ground that are looking at these terrorist cells in this nation, that they're going to be here and we know it like we know it. So when they say our vision, our goal is to make sure that we can take out this terrorist unit because ultimately we don't want them to do this dirty bomb that they're planning on hitting in New York because we have verified intelligence that that's the case. So this is why we're doing what we're doing. I feel like we probably don't do that enough. I think that the folks, or at least the perception is, there's a lot of folks, and not necessarily in my company, but I see other companies, and I've been in a lot of companies, but just companies in general, that are we taking the time to verify our intelligence? Are we taking the time to do the briefing so much from these boots on the ground people that have seen with their own eyes that are verifiable and we could say, you know what, that's what it is? Or are we a lot of the times spending a lot of our time strategizing, but we're looking up too much? We're not looking down at all. We don't know the person that's in the tank that's mowing the grass. We don't even know how they sound like or look like anymore. We're just looking up and saying, we need to do this. We need to go there. I see this. Well, wait. If we go there, we're going to step on the landmines that have popped up all over the place. And you need to know that, mission command. Well, wait. The last time we did that, this is what happened. We tried that before. I've been here a long time. Your CIA director or intelligence person is telling you, no, that's not the case. And I think that it's not necessarily just a leader gets high and they're so focused on the ground that they can't see the vision. But I think a leader can get so high that their head's in the clouds and they don't remember that the boots on the ground can also contribute to that mission. And we need to listen to the boots on the ground and look at the boots on the ground and take that intelligence that they've gained by firsthand experience and revelation and come up with these plans at the top. While they're fighting and giving intelligence, we're strategizing and sending you the support that you need. So I feel like the best leaders are the type of leaders that are like those lifeguards that you see in like kiddie pools. You know, those guys and gals out there, first off, looking jacked and tan. I wish I could look as in shape and tan as these lifeguards are. But they like are walking, and they usually like walk sideways, right? And they have like their little loop that they walk back and forth, and they're doing one of these.
Oh yeah. Head on a swivel.
And you're like, what the heck are you doing? Like your neck has to hurt. I asked one of them one time, I was like, why do you walk like that? They said, it's our policy that we have to walk a certain path and we have to look in certain things because here's all of the potential blind spots that we could have. And we have to make sure that we never have our eyes off of a blind spot for more than 3 seconds. Mm-hmm. So every 3 seconds, they're looking in every place that they could all the time, keeping their head on that swivel. And I thought that that was so appropriate for just leadership in general. We have to keep our head on the swivel. We can't get stuck in the weeds. We can't keep our head in the clouds. We have to really understand both, or at least have the intelligence and the infrastructure set up to be getting the information from the I would say mission command. What's the head of like a military industrial complex? Who knows?
Yeah. Command
like,
center,
let's just say president.
Yeah.
And getting information
from
commander-in-chief and getting information from infantry person and have communication that hits you and intelligence from all of that gives you all of the data that you need to be able to continue to strategize for the people under you and execute for the people above you.
No, that's so good. It's true though, like you're talking about the like lifeguarding and the importance of, being situationally aware is the term I want for this. You're situationally aware depending on what's going on. My son had his first job this summer and he was lifeguarding.
Was he?
And we're at the pool with him.
Tan kids, huh? Okay.
Yeah. So this is like his second day reporting at the pool. And we're sitting there and he's up in the chair and he's looking around and I'm sitting in the pool, like against the wall, just pretty close to him. And, my parents were out. So my mom was there talking to me and we're kind of looking around, kind of seeing what he's seeing and all this. And then just literally out of nowhere, the supervisor blows whistle, dives into the pool. She was standing there talking to JD, dives in the pool, swims over, and I'm looking, what in the world? And I had literally just been looking over to the wall, and she's over there like pulling this kid out of the pool. And he just come out of the slide and was struggling. And the kid's dad was even there close by. But she was the only one that saw that this kid started to struggle and start to like go under and split second. Oh, so the need to be paying attention, absolutely, because there are blind spots. And to your point, communication, understanding what's going on below you, so to speak, and being able to report the risks up above you.
It's a challenge.
Is very important and it's very challenging.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you don't know, but that's one of the highlights of, Garth's training and, shout out Command Ready. Garth runs phenomenal shop. He's got a whole leadership retreat in South Carolina. So audience, look him up.
I'm about to look him up.
I cannot recommend his style of training enough. It was, it was a game changer for me personally when I was able to go through it.
That's awesome. I think just to comment on what you said, it is challenging. It is very important to be able to communicate those things up the chain of command. And it is challenging because I think a lot of the fear comes in because a lot of folks, unfortunately, have gotten into the position that they're in because of politics. They're liked. You could be a top performer or you could be the most liked person. And the teacher's pets get good grades. They get favors. They get slides. Let's just call it is what it is. There's human psychology. We're not automatons. We're not perfect. And we are susceptible to their emotions. People ask me, it's like, all right, so look, can you help me practice this interview? And the only thing that I ever do is I say up front, I need you to build rapport. Ask questions. How long have you been there? Do you like it? Oh, that's awesome. Are you married? Oh, how's family life? How's all that? And just build rapport with the person. Because if they like you, it doesn't matter what you really say. A lot of the times they'll have this influence. So you'll have this influence over them and it'll help. So
Yep.
I say that because a lot of folks who are focused on that influence, and it's a dance, right? You have to be liked. You have to be respected. You have to be someone that people perceive that you could work with. But you get into this rut where my perception is so important that the truth and the mission comes second. And I can't report this truth to somebody because it's not what they want to hear. It's not what they may necessarily give them the warm and fuzzies, and they might not like me for reporting bad news or managing up. It's a hard thing. So they don't say anything. And then you get this bottleneck from the bottom. And then command doesn't really know what's going on in the battlefield. And a lot of that is because command needs to reinforce, I would say, the beauty of healthy conflict and failing forward and it being okay to make mistakes and truth and honesty over all and meritocracy. And the person that's doing the best gets the prize and wins. It's not the one that's the most liked or the loudest, but the person who's doing the best. And I think that is something that has to be done intentionally when you're on the top of the ladder. So people feel comfortable going up to you, because if they're coming up to you and saying, hey, this is going on down here, and you're kicking them in the head and they fall down that ladder a few times, they're going to stop climbing that ladder to try to give you intelligence on what's going on in the ground. And then you could lose sight of what's going on in the ground. So thank God that, I would just say thank God that lifeguard was there to see something that was so detrimental that she saved the kid. And I think a lot of the times we have people under us that they're the only person in the whole pool who see it. And they might not be the supervisor or the boss or have any power, but they come to you and they say, hey, this kid's drowning. You say, shut up. Or I don't have time for that. Or you don't know what drowning looks like. Or do you know
I'm on my break.
You know what I'm dealing with right now? You're talking about drowning? And then people are drowning in your pool and it's too late because people will stop talking to you. I think the most dangerous thing that a leader can see in their team is when people stop giving them bad news. They stop telling them things that don't necessarily feel or align with all of the hunky-dory rainbows and unicorns or their own thought process. When you get to a point where you're surrounded by yes people and all you're hearing is echoes of your own stuff, you're in the echo chamber, that's a dangerous position I feel for a leader.
100%. So, I mean, you asked earlier the question, like, how do you help people? Like, what is the advice to new leaders, particularly leaders of leaders, right? You're going from frontline manager to, a regional manager or a director or whatever it may be at the company you're working for. And, we talked about taking time to actually get out of the weeds and look at the reports and the dashboards and to plan for the future. Like, talked about that. We're talking about communication. And what you just hit on, I think is so critical. And that is listening. So many times someone gets put in a new position and they think that as the leader, they have to have all the answers and they have to come up with all of the strategies and they have to know exactly what are the next steps that need to be taken. And if you feel that way yourself, check your ego.
Yeah, that's a good call.
You have a team of people who report to you. You have people above you generally, unless you're the CEO, but even then you report to the shareholders. So there's always someone above you, right? There are people around you who are also very smart and who are also lifeguards watching the pool, and they're seeing it from a different angle because they're not in the same chair.
Yeah.
And so, you're talking about people trying to get your attention and hey, there's someone drowning. Take time to listen.
Yeah.
And when you're in one-on-ones and when you're in meetings, as a leader, I found it is so much more effective if I'm asking questions and then shutting up than if I'm in there just taking all the airspace because I'm talking.
That's so good, man. That's so good. You're right. That's so good. And it speaks to empowerment too. Like, you have to empower your people to jump in the pool to save a life. You don't got to come and check with me when you see something broken or someone drowning.
Right.
You don't go tell me. You better go save them, right? Like, you better go do your thing, even if it's against policy. And I know that sounds crazy. So we have a policy, and maybe I'll get fired from my leadership development and onboarding at our church because it's policy and I'm telling people to break it all the time. I apologize, Pastor Furtick. Elevation Church shout out. But we have a policy in eKids where I do the onboarding where we do not give medication to children. It's just, we don't. If you have some type of medication or if you have a headache, we're not saying, oh, here, Timmy, take some of this Tylenol. That'll help your head. Oh, you have a infection? Let me go ahead and throw you a pill. I think you might want to take 2 of these penicillin. We don't give medication. Okay? We're not qualified. We're not medics. It's not appropriate. It's not okay. We have police officers at the church, which I think is just crazy that we need police officers at the church these days. Whatever.
Yeah.
We have trained medics at the church, and we have those folks that can give medication in the event the child needs it. But I tell them, if you're on the playground and little Timmy's running around and gets stung by a bee, and little Timmy's allergic to bees, and little Timmy's throat's swelling up and can't breathe and is giving you the EpiPen, give little Timmy the medication. Give him the EpiPen to save little Timmy's life, and we'll deal with those consequences later. And I know it's a breach of policy, and I know it's breaking the rules, but that's why we hire human beings. We don't hire robots and automatons. We hire people and we trust people that they understand the boundaries, but they understand when the boundaries are unacceptable. Well, I didn't want to cross this line that you said I shouldn't have crossed, so you just let the car romp the curb and run into you? Well, yeah, I didn't want to break the rules. Like, yeah, well, now you're dead because the car ran into you. We can't make a rule for every kind of situation. Sometimes you're going to have to look at a situation and assess the situation and be empowered to make the right call, especially if it doesn't fall within the parameters of what it says in black and white. Because it's better to do what's right than to do what's in black and white, because black and white changes. There was one point in black and white, I couldn't sit in a podcast with you because of the color of my skin and the color of your skin. I was separate but equal, and I was even unequal at one point. There was in black and white that a certain gender that's the opposite of ours couldn't vote for the next leader of the free world. It was in black and white, but that needed to change. It wasn't right. And what's right changes what's in black and white so often that we have to empower folks to understand the culture, to understand our values, to understand whys behind the parameters, and push those boundaries to better positions. Jump in the pool and save that person, even if you're off the clock and there's no overtime. You know? So I think that the empowerment and our leading by example to push boundaries when it's acceptable within the parameters of our culture and our values is something that's super crucial for leaders too.
Absolutely. The empowerment is huge. My previous VP at my previous company said, you set guardrails such that everybody knows the boundaries. Where can you truly, like the black and whites you're talking about, where's the cliff? Let them know where the cliff is on each side. And
don't walk off the cliff.
Can't see my hands very well here as I'm gesturing, and let them operate within it, and let your people know that as long as you're within the established guardrails, do whatever you need to do to get the job done. But if you need to go outside of it, we better have a conversation first.
And you better have a good reason.
Yep.
But don't think for a second that we're not going to push those boundaries.
Yeah, it's like previous company. Here's a prime example. Previous job, we had a budget. We had an expectation that my field managers would go they'd go cruise along with, spend a day with their technicians once a month. At least once a month, they spent an entire day with each member of their team.
That's cool.
And they would go take them to lunch at some point, and it could be McDonald's or whatever. There was a guardrail on spending. They weren't going and buying $100 steaks for lunch.
Yeah, you weren't going to Ruth, Chris.
But but they could go and do whatever they needed to do, spend the time, give the recognition, and sometimes they're just stopping at a Buc-ee's and grabbing Slurpees and snacks, right? Like, it depended on the day, whatever you needed to do. My expectation was you went and spent time so you could listen, so you could evaluate their work, give them coaching and training. It's the only way, like, we're going in homes, installing equipment. You need to verify that they're doing it correctly and safely. And then,
some food, build some rapport,
give them some recognition, whatever. But you had a budget. And if you needed to break the budget, then you come talk to me. So, but friends, like the big thing here it's hard. Leadership is hard. You know, the advice we're given is listen, stay in communication with your people, listen to their feedback. Don't expect that you have to have all of the answers to every question all the time. You're surrounding yourself with smart and talented people. Use their intelligence.
Right.
You know, empower them to go act independently so you don't feel the need to be picking up the rake and raking the leaves all the time. And take time to plan. Take time to get out of it, step back from the day to day. Look out. What is coming? Are you going in the right direction? You know, even planes on autopilot nowadays. The pilot still has to course correct from time to time. There's still
100%.
turbulence they got to deal with. There's still storms
100%.
that come up. Sometimes there's aircraft flying right at them nowadays, and so you gotta be able to adjust. And as the leader, if you are staring at directly what's in front of you or below you all the time, you're not seeing what's around you and what's coming.
I agree. I would say that balance is key with everything. It's a dichotomy that doesn't make sense, but nothing makes sense. The infinite universe is expanding. How does infinite expand? That doesn't make sense, but it is what it is. And leadership is the same kind of dichotomy. I have to have strict parameters, but I have to be able to break those parameters. I have to understand what's happening below me, but I have to understand what's happening above me and around me. And it just doesn't make sense, but it does at the same time because it's a balance. You don't want to spend too much time looking below you because you'll get stuck in the weeds and you won't be doing the visionary work and looking at the landscape that you're responsible for. You want to look at the landscape that you're responsible for so you could see what's on the horizon and you can give orders down to the folks that need to know that information that they can't see from their seat. But if you spend too much time just looking at the horizon and leading across, you won't get the information from the bottom floor that you need and you can adjust. You won't get the information from the top that is coming down to you and or the clouds that are the ideas that are going to take you to the next level. And if your head's always in the clouds and you're always playing up to say the boss or looking at the future and seeing what's, visionary and, this, you don't really look at the actual landscape that you have going on right now, the reality of your situation, how you should move and move your tanks and how you should move your infantry and all that. And you don't even hear from the people below you because you're so far above, you can't even hear their voices. And you don't care if there's people drowning in the pool because your head's in the clouds. So you have to look up, you have to look straight, you have to look down, you have to look up, you have to look straight, you have to look down, you have to look up, you have to look straight, you have to be like that lifeguard and be balanced. And you're not going to get it right. Most of the time you're going to spend your time in one or two of the areas more than the others, and that plate will start to wobble. But like our boss says, who's a great boss, great leader, it's like spinning plates. I'm going to spin the plate of my level. Moving that thing spinning. Now I'm going to take some time and do some one-on-ones and take my people to lunch. The culture's good and I can understand the intelligence. And now I'm going to start thinking futuristic and actually speaking to the people that are above me and getting ready for the next level. Oh, my current thing's wobbling. Let me tighten that thing up a little bit. Oh, now my team let me tighten that up a little bit. Let me tighten that up a little bit. And there's very few times where everything's just spinning like crazy. One's always kind of wobbling and slowing down. It's just understanding and having controls in place and communication processes in place where you can know when things are wobbling as opposed to just hearing, what was that? Your culture broke.
Yeah.
Your responsibilities that you're getting paid for broke. The powers that be feel like you're not executing and you're not really setting a long-term vision and heading into the future broke. So you want to make sure you catch it before you hear the break.
Absolutely. And Simon says that middle management's probably the hardest job in anywhere.
I hope so.
You got to go. You're looking up. You're looking down. You're looking all around it. If you're on the ground level, it's what's in front of you, and everything else is just straight up. And if you're at the top, then everything's below, right? So things tend to break in the middle. So friends, it may be challenging, but leadership is so worth it. And hopefully these tips and advice gives you something to think about and to make your job a little bit easier. And we'll catch you next time.